Hello and good morning once again to Ask Teacher Jhei live here on YouTube. For our episode for today, I am very blessed and lucky to have our special guest for today. And our special guest needs no introduction, for he is one of the uh, very, should I say, uh, most presentable and for me idolized therapist for prehab and rehab in the country. He is part of the Philippine polo team as their physical therapist during the SEA Games, the last one that was, if I'm not mistaken, 2019 or 2020. And he is also our um, resource person when it comes to dealing with body stress, especially with the influx of online learning. And we know that our most of our children are having problems with their posture. And this resource person gave us a guide in how to make sure that our children will be able to will be able to exercise and have proper conditioning when it comes to being in front of the computer screen. So once again, it is an honor and a pleasure to have our guest for today, Sir Raul de los Reyes. Sir.
Well, thank you, Teacher Jay. Good morning as well. It's my honor as the same. Thank you very much for considering me and be part of your show.
Yes.
Yes, I was really looking forward to be able to impart some wisdom and hopefully be able to add value to our viewers. Again, I am humbled myself. I only bring experience, and the wisdom I will be able to share God's wisdom. So I'm hoping to be able to, with what I will be able to share later, based on your questions and based on your query, would be able to uh, add value to everyone. Thank you very much, Teacher Jay. That was ang ganda na introduction mo. Parang hindi ako yun. Salamat.
Well, let's start things off with your profession, sir.
Yes,
Like in
teacher.
the description, we had you described as a prehab and rehab specialist. So, can you give at least the audience, a brief introduction on what is your profession and what's the difference between prehab and rehab?
Well, that's a good question, Teacher Jay. Actually, rehab was what is expected from physical therapists for us to be able to help that person who underwent injury or neurovascular damage, for example, from stroke. For us as physical therapists to be able to help them go back to their feet. Like I have this patient which started last January, end of January, and he's on all of his right side is dead. He suffered a stroke, I think New Year. So again, I did rehab for him. Right now, I've already cleared him to be able to walk inside the house without an assistive device. Outside with support from a cane and also a supervision from his relative. That is rehab because was after the fact. But I am pursuing and I am more into going and wanting to promote more the prehab portion of rehabilitation, which is before the injury sets in or before something traumatic ensues. And I think as what we've learned before, di ba sinasabi naman, an ounce of cure is worth more than a pound of an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. So that's what prehab is doing. It's trying to assess possible injuries in the future based on the person's tightness, based on the person's anatomical and functional dynamics, and from there be able to suggest exercises to help prevent future injuries. For example, Teacher Jay, women are more inclined to I don't know if you're familiar, pero yung ACL is the one that is one of the major support ligament of the knee. Ngayon, ang problema kasi sa babae is, of course, the way the Lord designed women is that they be able to carry babies. Kaya ang hips ng babae mas malapad than men. So what happens was to be able to counteract or to be able to recover from that wide hip, the Lord designed the women's knees to be more inward. And because of that, women are more inclined to from ACL injuries, such as athletes, volleyball players, basketball players, gymnasts, even. So knowing that for a fact, then we can already assume that we need to strengthen the women's buttocks, for example, to help prevent ACL injury. So that's what Prehab does, based on the risk factors, based on the patient's gender, as what I've mentioned. You can already design prior to even that person suffering from injury. You can already design an exercise program that would prove beneficial for her or for him.
Well, that's a pretty good insight, especially now that I actually didn't know that most women, especially the athletes, suffer ACL. I remembered there was a specific sport. I think it was figure skating. Um, if I'm not mistaken, figure skating had a number of multiple ACL injuries. I think during the time span of 1970s to 1990s. But I am not, since I am just a fan of figure skating, and I am also, you said, um, what they call this, gymnasts. So I guess it's because of flexibility concerns. How do you deal with the, for example, how do you deal with in the position of, for example, women who would want to have these problems addressed immediately? Do you just give them a set of exercises, or you have the complete overall holistic program for them?
That's a very good question, Teacher Jay. The good thing about I'm not going to talk about gymnastics, but going back to what I've experienced in polo, because what happened there was the player has to be ready for the game, and the game was every other day. So I guess in regards to your question, that player has to be able to participate and be pain free. Now, the typical concern in that sport was the horses tend to bump on the player's leg, the opponent's horse, and also the fact that they continually hold the mallet, their thumb, the holding thumb, tend to become, may develop later on spurs or pain. So what happened? What happened then was that the star player, our star player, I'm not going to mention his name, but our star player for the polo on that crucial game, his bone spur on his right thumb flared up. I was informed about an hour before the game would start, because that's when the time when we met in the field. So what I'm just trying to say is I have to be able to make that person hold the mallet and strike the ball as much as possible without pain. Because with pain, he was not able to at all. So prior to when he arrived, he showed me, and he can even hold the mallet to strike the ball. So that's very crucial. Being a star player and and him losing that ability to grab and strike. So with certain techniques such as joint mobilization, pain-free release of the joint, he was able to play the whole game. He was not pain-free, but he was able to hold the mallet and he was able to strike the ball. So what I'm trying to say, Teacher Jay, is there are times, it depends on the situation. On your question, and going back to your question, if the person is, for example, an hour before the game comes to me and is complaining of pain, then I'll try to figure something out to try and relieve that pain and be able to for the person to be able to play productively. There are certain techniques that can be done. Those are passive treatments, meaning I have to use my hand to release something or to loosen up a joint. Now, eventually, exercises should happen readily after once the pain has subsided. If there is still pain, then exercises should be to a minimum. And based on my experience, patients uh, I may be able to probably see a patient for passive treatment using manual therapy for 1 or 2 sessions, and then from then on, be able to proceed to active exercising. Active exercising kasi Teacher Jhei is very important, very vital. Kasi once there's injury, automatic alam mo talaga may weakness na. So you cannot just end as a physical therapist. You cannot just by seeing by working on the pain. It has to be continuous. That's why I think it also is vital for a physical therapist, even in the setting abroad, especially in the setting here, that the physical.
Hello, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question, Teacher Jhei.
Yeah. There was a portion that got cut out. I don't know what happened.
Yes, but going back, I'm not sure where it got cut off, but what I'm trying to say again, going back, Teacher Jhei, is that the physical therapist, of course, when there's pain, should focus on relieving the pain. But after the pain, the physical therapist should also have a solid foundation and know-how on how to continue with the patient towards strengthening. Kasi it's quite vital for the athlete, for example. Kasi automatic talaga, Teacher Jhei, when there's pain, there is swelling, and there's also a concomitant weakness. So when you when you focus on just dealing with the pain and not dealing with the concomitant weakness that ensued, then the athlete would eventually come back even worse. So going back to your question, Teacher Jhei, the athlete, for example, prior to a game is suffering from pain, then we have to find a way or figure out ways for him or her to be able to play. And then after the game, reassess and see what happened, and then from then on, decide on what needs to be strengthened and what needs to be stabilized.
All right. I would like to ask you, what are the traditional ways of approaching the treatment as compared to the modern ways of approaching the treatment? Were there instances of differences, or for example, the use of technology or devices, or is it just you still have the traditional methods of prehab and rehab, but you're applying modern day technology uh, to this approach?
That's a good question, Teacher Jhei. I'm quite limited in terms of my tools because I am just basically using manual therapy. But on certain hospitals here in abroad, they're already using technology to somehow help the patient, such as may mga ginagamit silang laser, for example, to help alleviate the swelling, etc., etc. But in terms of me, I basically just do manual therapy. I even do suction. I even do I use a blade to relieve tension from muscles. So basically what I do, my treatment is basically focused on whatever I can. I use my hands for my treatments. That falls under the scope of manual therapy.
But I'm also I am a fan of the manual therapy because I think this is even part of history, right? Because a lot of historical documents used manual therapy in relieving pain. If we go to early civilizations, a lot of these civilizations use manual therapy along with some herbs, or should I say, herbology, to treat muscular pain. And do you have like do you also associate other methods like aromatherapy, or for example, other methods like in China you have acupuncture? What is like for you as a professional? What are the things that you also would like to explore in your field, and what are the things that you are would like to try as something that is additional to your profession?
That's a good question, Teacher Jay. Actually, under physical therapy, we also do dry needling, which in China is called acupuncture. The approach is somewhat similar, but the points are somewhat different. Because acupuncture, I think, focuses on the chi, but dry needling focuses on the trigger point. I also do cupping, which is also a Chinese form of medicine, but my cupping is more type where I slide the the cup, the plastic cup to somehow alleviate tension. Cupping is the only technique that where the fascia is pulled away from the bone. All of the techniques, kasi Teacher J, of manual therapy, you have to press against the bone or against the person. But cupping is the only technique that pulls the fascia away. So I usually I like to, or often use cupping as a release technique, as a release tool technique. Uh, yes, I still have a lot to learn. I've already have 20 plus years experience, Teacher J. I graduated 1996, matagal na. But I still continue to learn. People who would say that they've already reached their potential, I guess, uh, or I would say are ano parang hindi sila totoo, because totoo sa sarili nila, because I think learning, it does not end. I think when you say that you don't need to learn anymore, that's when you become haughty. I think humility is first and foremost important, regardless of your profession, regardless of your experience. So yun po.
Disclaimer, hindi po totoo na teenager pa lang po yan si Sir Raul. Hindi matanda yan mo. Bata, mukha nga mas bata sa akin si Sir Raul. He looks younger than me. So, yeah. Let's put it in the Philippine setting. What is the most common injury that Filipinos have? Is it related to our culture, or is it related to our, let's say, our lifestyle? And what are the things that you would suggest to prevent those injuries?
Yes, Teacher Jay. I think because of what's happening lately, I think the most common injury, or the most common pain that people are suffering from is shoulder, upper back, neck, or lower back pain. I think yun nga, dahil lagi tayo nakaupo. I think the second problem is people kasi, di ba, they want to feel healthy and they want to exercise. I think the second problem lies in the fact that running is quite readily unavailable, kasi once you get cleared, for example, you have a good space outside, the first thing in mind for exercise is always running. The second exercise after running, the most common exercise people opt to do is biking. Now, those are two good endeavors. I'm not bashing runners or bikers. Don't get me wrong. What I'm just trying to say is, before running, for example, for siguro 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, walang problema eh. Pero people associate mauuna kasi nag-improve yung lung capacity at cardiovascular system bago pa yung muscle at yung buto. So people probably would say na 2 kilometers di ako hiningal. Siguro next week 5K naman ako. Pag 5K, next week 10K naman ako. Then it becomes a problem because the people think that running is already the exercise. But as you progress with running, you also have to exercise to run. You also have to address muscles that supports your running, that supports the loading and the weight bearing of the joints. Now, biking is not a problem. I mean, no problem at all. Whatever would encourage the person to go out, to have fun, and to socialize. Why not? That's the problem I see with biking is that if we spend at least 8 hours or 9 hours a day, Monday to Friday, working from home, sitting, then our first option of exercise is also done in sitting, which is biking. Then later on, it will become a problem. No wonder people are suffering from back pain, hip pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, because even their choice of exercise is also done in a seated position. That's why what I'm trying good endeavors, but it does not and should not stop there. We still need to work out and address our imbalances so that we can perform those two activities pain-free. So going back, Teacher Jhei, the most common, I think, because of the setting right now is shoulder pain, upper back pain, mid back pain, and low back pain. Siguro yung mga hips sa knee pain, ano pa yun eh. Pagka yung tao na may ganun, tumakbo, yun, magkakaroon na ng knee pain yun. So what I think from that you can also already base, Teacher Jhei, no, na then papasok na yung concept of prehab. Kasi alam mo na yung history ng person eh. The person comes to you or comes to me, for example, has back pain. The first question should be, what's your then from there you can already you can already design a program kasi you know what the dominant position is 8-9 hours a day.
Yeah. I guess talagang knowing the person's activity is key for you. And bukod sa Sir Raul, bukod sa back pains, shoulder pains, Filipino athletes in particular, what is the most challenging type of rehab that you had to do based on your profession in the athletic world, and how do you manage to cope up with it, or how did you work with it?
Yung pinaka na-enjoy ko na athlete ko si is a basketball player. He's in college basketball player. He had chronic ankle sprain. Chronic meaning it keeps coming back. I think of course you have to most athletes naman kasi most athletic anything involving athletics requires the person to be on his feet. So from there you can already assume that the person would need to jump and would need to land. I've always mentioned about the pillars of strength. I think I've mentioned this dun sa when I talk sa Learning Links, Teacher Jhei. I mean, looking at structures and buildings, there's always a pillar that supports the structure, di ba? Regardless of the height of the structure, be it high or be it tall, or even a bridge, there's always a concrete beam that supports, that is the pillar of support of that structure. Also on our bodies, there's a pillar of strength. And the pillar of strength are the shoulder blades, the trunk, which involves the front and the back trunk, and also the glutes. So what I'm trying to say is, regardless of the athletes, whatever sport they may be in, it may be swimming, it may be running, it may be gymnastics, maybe basketball, it may be volleyball, it may be football. Regardless, you still have my approach is always to look at the person's pillar of strength. If one part of the pillar is weak, then you know that where the problem is coming from. Even actually Teacher Jhei, even on my patients, that's how I approach them. The stroke patient I was talking to you about, the guy who had suffered a stroke last New Year, and I saw him first in January. Automatic yung approach, pillar of strength. I didn't do anything sa physical therapy kasi marami sa tinatawag na technique for stroke. May mga bow bath, mga ganun. I did not even focus on that. I just focused on the body's pillar of strength. First week, he was not moving at all on his right side. So I just designed an exercise program for him to be able to do twice a day with his family. I actually saw him just once a week. On the second week, he was already walking with assistance. And on the third week, he was walking with an assistive device.
Wow.
So what I'm trying to say, Teacher Jhei, is there will be injury for athletes, of course. I think the most severe probably would be an ankle sprain or an ACL injury. But going back, regardless, whatever injury an athlete may suffer from, babalikan mo talaga muna yung pillar of strength. Like on you, Teacher Jhei, I can already see that you will have a problem with your shoulder and your neck.
Actually, I am. I do.
Kasi basing on the structure, basing on that.
Yeah. Actually,
And so going again, in addition to your question, no, the being able to have an eye to see what the future problem that person may suffer from, applying the concept of prehab on that athlete would really help that athlete to be able to prevent him from suffering from a serious injury.
Grabe, anticipation. Iba talaga kapag professional yung tumitingin eh.
Yes, I'm not saying teacher naman na preventable ang injury. What I'm just trying to say is you can possibly prevent serious injury kung nakita mo na even before yung demands nung athlete in terms of his weaknesses. I mean, if you have an athlete that is a basketball player, di ba? Alam mo na kasi Teacher Jhei, hindi naman yung talon yung nakaka-injure eh. Ang nakaka-injure talaga sa basketball player or sa volleyball player or anybody who needs to jump is the way they land. Yun naman talaga yung unang i-address mo. Ang nakikita mo sa YouTube ngayon is pagka basketball player, how high can you jump eh? The problem is it doesn't really matter how high. What the first question should be, how good can you land? Going back to basketball, it's really also not how fast you can run. It is how good you can stop. Kasi that's when injuries happen. So knowing yung demands ng sport, for example, going back to basketball, alam mo na kailangan niya mag-land, alam mo na kailangan niya mag-decelerate or mag-stop. I-check mo yun. I-check mo yung manner ng tuhod pag nag-landing siya. I-check mo yung manner ng paa kung paano siya mag-land. I-check mo yung compensations niya kung paano siya mag-stop. And then from there, you can design an exercise program para makatulong dun sa athlete. Yun, Teacher Jhei. So the athlete I was talking to you about, I think he won't mind. I'll just say his name, si Doniel. He suffered from a chronic ankle injury. He's 6'5". When I asked him to dunk, he can only dunk up to here. So him having a good arm length, that's quite parang inefficient yung jump niya. I guess siguro may insecurity siya sa ankle kasi niya. When we started training, I didn't do any rehab I didn't actually do any manual therapy on him. We just already focused on exercises. I think after 1 or 2 months, his dunk was already up to here. So what I'm trying to say is, yun nga, syempre, for his sport, of course, he needs to be able to jump high kasi requirement yun. Saka 6'5" siya. Pero hindi ko naman focus yung jumping niya eh. Yung focus nung exercise niya was stability, mobility. So, focus ko yung ability niya to land. Pero nag-improve yung ability niya to jump. So it goes hand in hand. Kasi nung nagkaroon siya ng confidence on how he lands, nagkaroon din siya ng secured feeling na kaya niyang tumalon.
All right. I would like to take this time for Sir Raul to rest a bit. I will just greet the people. Guys, the viewers right now, if you have anything, if you have any questions related to our topic, kindly chat. Hello to Gamboa, who's right now watching. Shout out to you. And by the way, Sir Raul's son has a YouTube channel. It's called Hoobies and Creations. And if you want to, watch the videos that his son created, you can subscribe to his channel. The link is in the description box below. It's highly appreciated. I am already a subscriber, and I even watch the Boba Fett. I'm a big fan of Star Wars, so I'm a Star Wars fanatic. So I know when someone is doing a video in honor of the great Star Wars movie franchise. My wife is also online, so she would like to ask. I'll save this question later. But let's Sir Raul, is there a difference between practicing in the US and practicing here in the Philippines?
Nung sa US kasi ako, Teacher Jay, I basically work for a hospital eh. So, I was working on a schedule. I also work sa acute care, sa inpatient rehab, sa long-term care, para siyang nursing home pero hospital-based. Pero what I enjoyed the most was really when I worked sa outpatient. Kasi outpatient really triggered and really enhanced my creativity. Because again, the person coming there usually are athletes in the outpatient rehab I went to work for. So there were really physical demands. They pressure. Parang kasi pag typical patient, for example, who underwent a knee replacement, the typical goal would be for that person to be able to navigate stairs in his home, be able to go in and out the car, be able to walk a certain amount of distance with an assistive device or without, being able to sit and stand, be able to go in and out of the bathroom safely, for example. So you would probably say those are basic functions. They're not really the high level functions. But when it becomes an athlete, pero pag athlete na, parang mas higher level function. So mas magaan yung creativity mo, mas magiging critical thinker ka. Kasi hindi lang walking ang demand eh. There's running, there's landing, there's jumping, there's acceleration, deceleration. So it really hastened, I think, my want or my desire to be more creative. In the Philippine setting, I'm not attached or I'm not connected to any hospital. So what I'm doing here is basically private physical therapy. Honestly, I enjoyed it more because then I was able to construct a daily schedule based on my availability. I can decide to work as early and be at home after lunch, for example, on a certain day. Or I can just simply decide not to go to work on that day because my son, for example, has a school activity I need to be able to attend to. Both are challenging, but parang pinagkakaiba naman talaga, teacher, I guess, is of course the language. You have to speak English but over there, and here you don't really have to. But in terms of challenges, in terms of the demands, or in terms of the needs of the patient, all but the same. Siguro, ano lang, in a way, siguro it made me more confident having the experience to be able to work there and be able to express myself in the foreign language. But nonetheless, it's all but the same in terms of what I do.
Speaking of treatment, is there any moment in your life that in your profession that you wanted to quit your profession, and what made you stick to your decision? to becoming a physical or the therapist that you are today?
Well, early in my career, when I graduate 96, there's nothing available for physical therapists kasi hindi naman masyadong appreciated pa ang physical therapist back in those times. And most of my classmates wanted to pursue to go abroad and practice there. So the only available back in those days, the only available work for a physical therapist would be to work for a call center or work for a as fitness instructors. Or medrep Teacher Jhei. I took the route of fitness, even though it didn't make me enough money. But the good thing about that choice was it gave me a more sound experience in terms of exercises. Looking back in the physical therapy school, the usual exercise that was prescribed was quite basic. So the problem there, if your experience in exercise is as basic as what was taught in school, then you really have a hard time to progress the patient to something more advanced. Kasi ang problema kasi Teacher Jhei, that the patients themselves even they actually progress quickly. But if you get stuck up with basic exercises, the patient probably would end up discharging from your service 2 months, 3 months afterwards, still lifting 5 pounds. That's quite. I realized then that's quite minimal. That's a very quite minimal achievement and progression. So again, going back, what I really enjoyed was that I had a more sound knowledge and experience from the many patients and from the many persons I did personal training for, and also myself in terms of how I felt on every movement, on every exercise I do. It gave me a more sound knowledge on what a person needs and what a person should actually feel. You can readily say kasi Teacher Jhei, if the physical therapist has a good knowledge and a good experience in exercising, pag pati yung feel ng exercise kaya niyang i-describe sa'yo. Kasi from there, alam mo talaga siya mismo ginawa niya or napagawa na niya before. Other therapists, especially the new graduates, to really engage in exercising, because I guess that will be yun kasi yung connecting line na sa practice dito sa Philippines. Sa States kasi, Teacher Jhei, pagkatapos ng pasyente sa outpatient, for example, an athlete, pagka mayroon na siyang sound, pwede mo na yung i-endorse sa athletic trainer. Dito kasi hindi naman ganoon ang practice. Dito kasi I think ang magiging edge mo rito as physical therapist is kung kaya mong i-cater yung patient from start to progression. So I think I would encourage other physical therapists that would really help you have a more continuous clientele. Kasi inaihatid mo sila from rehab, tapos ihahatid mo pa sila towards higher level function.
All right, Sir Raul, we would like to entertain some questions here in the chat. What exercise can you recommend to people who are obese that will not hurt our knees? Thank you.
I'm sorry, Teacher Jhei, can you repeat the question, Teacher Jhei?
What exercises can you recommend to people who are obese that will not hurt our knees? Thank you.
Yun nga yung problema, Teacher Jhei, no? Commonly when you see, punta ka sa YouTube, no? Pagka makita mo doon, mga weight loss exercises. Anong pinagagawa doon? Burpees, pinatatalon, pinadi-jumping jacks, no? So parang papayat nga yung tao pero puro aches and pains naman siguro, no? Sakit ng tuhod sa kakatalon. Kasi imagine mo, Teacher Jhei, if you're obese, for example, kung a certain amount of weight, i-multiply mo yun 5 to 10 times sa landing. So imagine mo yung bagsak nun sa tuhod. Marami kasi exercise, Teacher Jhei, na pwedeng tumaas ang heart rate, hindi kailangan tumalon. As simple as sitting to standing. For example, sa chair, tatayo ka, tapos upo ka sa chair. Kung gusto mo tumaas ang heart rate mo, pagtayo mo, pwede pang itaas yung kamay mo. Tapos, every time kasi na nakataas yung kamay, mas double yung heart rate mo doon. Kasi syempre yung heart mo, kailangan i-deliver yung blood mas mataas beyond the head. Up and down the stairs is a very nice activity also. In making sure though that the way you plant your feet is very light, hindi pabagsak. If you're obese, for example, you can do planking. That is a very good exercise. It not only strengthens the trunk, but it also strengthens the shoulder blade, which is very vital and important. Those are just general exercise, Teacher Jhei. I mean, of course, it depends on the person's history. Depends on the person's pain. I have had many patients and clients also I do personal training for, and I'm trying to prevent, of course, jumping. But based on my experience, again, going back, there are many movements that can be done that does not require a person to jump for the heart rate to go up. Ang kaya naman nila pinatatanong Teacher Jhei sa YouTube, for example, kasi kaya habol niya doon heart rate eh. Para kasi ang point doon, pag tumaas kasi heart rate mo, ang expected, mas tataas yung burning capacity. Pero yung at the expense naman of the person's joints. That was a very sound question. Thank you for whoever asked that.
That was my
again,
one.
there are exercises. Okay, of course, again, there are exercises and there are movements that can be done without the person needing to jump for the heart rate to go up.
Alright, nakikinig ng matimtiman ng aking misis dun sa iyong advice. I think gagawin namin lalo na yung chair exercise. And, ayun daw, may follow-up siya. How about daw with lumbar problems?
Yun na rin naman yung bagsak ng Teacher Jhei. Makikita mo kasi sa tao, depende kung ano yung mahinang joint, yun ang unang sasakit eh. May makikita ka mga tao na obese, for example, and ang complaint nila is ankle. Pero yung tuhod nila, walang problema. Yung likod, walang problema. There are people also who has back pains, pero wala namang knee pain, wala namang ankle pain. Person kung ano yung weakest joint, dun sa bibigay. Having a sound physical therapist to assess a person would give you would help that patient have a better picture of what's causing that problem in the first place. Depende kasi, makikita mo kasi may mga tao na diretso yung yung hip to knee to ankle diretso. So from there, may expect mo, ay, kaya mag-load ng knee saka na ankle kasi diretso sila eh. Kaya pala likod yung sumasakit kasi yung likod yung masyado naka-extend. May mga tao naman na walang back pain, pero makikita mo naman yung tuhod nakapiki. Automatic kasi pag ang tuhod nakapiki, yung paa naka-flat, nakaganto. So doon pala makikita mo na, hassle pa talaga yung taon to, or hassle sa tao na to na tumakbo. Kasi alam mo magkakaproblema sa tuhod to. Or hindi man sa tuhod, automatic magkaka-ankle sprain to. Unless ma-strengthen muna yung mga to help support that structure. So ganun, Teacher Jhei.
Ang dami kong phone-in questions dito sa bahay mismo namin.
Teacher Jhei.
Ito, unahin ko muna dito sa student ko, kay Gab. Gab is asking, Sir Raul, do you have any exercises specifically for bikers naman daw?
Ganda na. Actually, plano kang gumawa ng YouTube to be able to address that need. Kasi, again, going back, I'm not bashing bikers. I actually like the fact that people wants to go out and bike. But looking at the position of the biker itself, automatic makikita mo na what needs to be strengthened. Everything that is at the back, which is straightening, yung buttocks, for example, needs to be strengthened. Sadly kasi when you bike, you don't really use your butt. You basically just use your quads and your hamstrings and your calves. Yung buttocks ba naman, di ba, going back, Teacher Jhei, I mentioned earlier, it's part of the pillar of strength. So even if you have a strong quad, hamstrings, and calves, yung pillar of strength mo naman, which is your foundation, is the glutes is mahina, magkakaroon ka pa rin ng problema later on. So going back to that question, a biker needs to strengthen his glutes, his trunk, his shoulder blades. Kasi the shoulder blades automatically would carry the mid-back and also the neck. So the pillar of strength. So makita mo, Teacher Jhei, no, it all goes back to the pillar of strength. So I'm trying to make it simple kasi that's how the human body is made naman kasi. Regardless of the person's activity, you always have to go back to the person's pillar of strength.
Nasagot yung tanong regarding yung concern sa lumbar nung sinabi mo regarding pillar of strength. So do you think planking, coach, is Sir Raul, is something that would help the strengthen the pillar of strength?
There are certain exercises I usually implore to help strengthen the pillar of strength. Pwede na mag-demo no?
yes. Kung okay lang sa inyo mag-demo, why not? Again, we are actually have viewers from the United States and from UK. That is why the time frame is like early morning. But of course, this is also recorded. So those viewers who would want to watch Mr. Sir Raul's demonstration, they can actually see it.
Yeah, I'll just ask my lovely partner and my wife to get the rubber bands. Guys, I usually like rubber bands kasi rubber bands does not only give you resistance on the way towards, but also on the return. It gives you resistance on both ends. Rubber bands also are quite handy kasi wherever you go, you can always bring them, even if you travel abroad. I like to use loop bands and booty bands is what they call it. I really like to use them for my athletes specifically. Of course, athletes require a heavier load sometimes, so dumbbells and kettlebells may also be required. But for people who are just basically wants to, engage themselves into strengthening their pillar strength, the rubber bands and the glute bands are very good tools to start with. I will demonstrate. I'm just waiting for my wife. The most I would require or I would really want for you to do are, I call 1, 2, 3, 4, limang exercise lang actually. I recommend 5 exercises for people to do daily. If you can, first thing in the morning. It addresses the pillar of strength na. Yung scapula, yung trunk, at saka yung glutes.
Alright. Sa mga nanonood ngayon, tatandaan nyo tong i-demonstrate ni Sir Raul because this is
nagawa na natin to Teacher Jhei with the kids during the I also did talks for Rockwell Club after the talk I did for Learning Links for the members and also for their employees. Also sharing this same of course, again, going back, there are more exercises that can be done besides what I'm gonna prescribe. Pero kasi nga, kung ito nga, hindi mo magawa lalong hindi mo magagawa yun. I think, if you can do this 5 consistently, I mean, when I say consistently, it's daily, then you have a more chance of enjoying a more pain-free and more functional kind of life. I think later on, guys, you would realize that the challenge kasi when you see YouTube, they always when you see fitness influencers, they always challenge you to go intense, to go higher reps, to go to failure. Pero honestly, guys, I think consistency always beats intensity. If you can do something consistently for 5 to 10 minutes a day, mas may laban ka eh. Kasi if you do something just for 3 times a week na intense, dun ako sa consistent. Ito yung loop band, teacher. I really enjoy using this to strengthen the scapula. I always tell people about the scapula. Kasi the scapula is one that attaches the upper body to the spine. The way the Lord designed our shoulder is that yung ito itong head nitong arm, itong part ng upper arm is bigger than the socket. Ang hips natin mas malaki yung socket sa head nung leg. So looking at that, alam mo talaga na mas stable yung hip kesa sa shoulder because of its orientation. Pero dinesign kasi ni Lord ng ganda ng shoulder. Kasi ang arm kasi maraming range of motion na required. Kaya hindi siya stable, pero mas mobile siya. Ginawa pa ni Lord na mas mobile because of the scapula. Kasi dahil may maliit lang yung socket, mas malaki yung head, niligyan ni Lord ng muscle dito, group of muscles na naka-attach sa scapula. Yun yung nagpo-protect ng shoulder natin. Para yung movement ng arm is fluid. Kaya going back, kaya importante yung scapula. Kasi doon naka-attach yung supporting structures. So kung mahina yung attachment, which is the scapula, ibig sabihin yung movement is magkakaroon din ng impairment. Di ba, guys, pagka, for example, makikita mo yung sa Manila Bay, yung malalaking tankers o yung malalaking luxury cruise ships. Di ba, sobrang laki nun, pero na-stable siya in place pagka nagbaba ng anchor. Pero yung anchor naman is significantly smaller than the ship itself.
Yeah.
Pagka stable ang anchor or stable ang post, expect mo talaga na stronger ang movement. Pero kung mahina ang poste, expect mo talaga na weak ang movement. So for example, teacher and audience, 8-9 hours a day, nagta-type ka sa computer or lalo sa computer desk ka. Tapos niyaya ka nung kaibigan mo, sabihin ng kaibigan mo, uy, tennis tayo kasi sarap mag-tennis ngayon, open air. Meron pang social distancing. Join ka naman, pero ganito yung balikat mo, no? Sinabi ko kayo sa inyo kanina, guys, di ba? Pag mahina ang poste, mahina ang movement. So, ang mangyayari is, sabi ng kaibigan mo, lakasan mo yung palong mo, hindi man umaabot sa akin eh. Mahina nga yung poste nyo, guys, no? So, ang gagawin mo para umabot sa kanya, gagamitan mo ng elbow. Kasi nga, mahina nga yung shoulder blade nyo eh. Kaya, after 2 weeks, sabihin mo, ba't masakit yung dito ko? May tennis elbow na.
Tennis elbow.
Kasi nga, mahina yung poste. Ang nangyayari kasi, Teacher Jhei, is of course, we are always focused on the function or the task, regardless kung ano yung gagamitin nating muscle. Hindi naman yun iniisip natin na kailangan si scapula nakakontract bago ko i-swing yung racket. Ang naka-focus naman tayo, kailangan tamaan ko yung bola as hard as I can. Kasi hindi naman iniisip ng katawan nyo kasi naka-focus lang tayo sa task. What I'm just trying to say is, kaya nga hindi nga siya naka-focus sa task eh. So ibig sabihin, kailangan palakasin mo yung supporting structures para kahit naka-focus ka sa task, tama yung gagamitin ng muscle. So again, going back, very important to guys, 3 movement na to scapula. Gagawin nyo araw-araw. Available to mga rubber bands to guys, online, sa Decathlon if you want. Kahit nga sa meron eh. Sa Daiso, may nakita ako. I usually prefer to do this standing up, so I'll stand up guys ha.
Go ahead sir.
Standing up, bakit? Lagi na nga tayo nakaupo eh. Pati ba naman exercise, nakaupo pa rin, di ba? So tumayo naman tayo. Pero going back to the concept of anchoring, you have to be able to anchor yourself first based on your base of support. Kasi paa-usapan dito, nakatayo eh. So, ibig sabihin, naka-anchor ka sa paa. So, make sure yung paa nyo, guys, naka-point forward. Common sakit natin, Teacher Jhei, naka-toe out tayo. Pag nag-exercise, naka-toe out.
True.
Tapos yung tuhod, naka-hyperextend. So, guys, pointed forward ang paa. Ang tuhod, naka-diretso lang, hindi naka-hyperextend. Diretso. Hindi nakabenda, diretso. Second, the problema is ang puwet. Ito yung problema ni Mrs. Teacher Jhei. Masyado naka-hyperextend. So, para makorek yon, pelvic tilt. Pelvic tilt. Tapos pasokan dyan.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Pa lang yun guys ha, hindi pa yung exercise ha. Pointed forward ang paa, nakadiretso tuhod, Naka-pelvic tilt, pasok ang tiyan. Hawakan yung rubber band nang may tension. Ito yung first movement sa scapula. Naka-kuba, naka-chin tuck, and lap. Gagawin nyo to for 10 times, guys. So yung scapula nyo mag-forward, magba-backward. Second movement is same exact stance, upward naman. Naka-reach up, and then down. Reach up, reach up. Second movement, guys. Third movement, pinaka-importante out of the three is the overreach. So ito yung starting, same exact stance, nasa harap, may tension sa rubber band, angat, and chest out. Chest out.
Wow, wow.
Angat, chest out. Very important yun, guys, yung third movement. Kasi, for example lang nagda-drive kayo, no? Tapos nag-park kayo. Tapos yung handbag pala nasa likod. Anong gagawin? Hindi naman lalabas ng kotse, no? Aabutin pa ganito.
True.
Common injury doon. Common injury doon. Kasi kung ang 8 hours a day ka na ganito, tapos gusto mong gawin sa balikat mo is gumanto, ma-injure ka talaga. Kasi naka-stack up yung scapula mo dito. Pipilitin mong gumanito. May ipit ka talaga dito somewhere, somehow. Kung hindi man sa first instance, more or less, mangyayari yan. So, exposing your scapula or your shoulder to be able to do this, at least may laban ka. Kasi kung yung exercise mo is already involving that function, mas may laban ka na hindi ka ma-injure. So again, going back guys, yun yung prehab. Alam mo kasi later on, gagamitin mo siya to be able to do that function. So wini-workout mo na yung function. I think we've done 3 movements now. The first is the forward, then the up, and then the
circular.
Okay, the fourth movement, napaka-basic. Asian squat. Actually, it's not even a movement. It's more of a mobility stretch. Studies have shown na pagka ang hips daw natin ay loose or mobile, mas mababa ang chances na magkaroon tayo ng back pain. Bakit sumisikip ang hip? Kasi lagi nakaupo. Ibig sabihin, yung hip stuck up in one position lang. Hindi siya gumaganto at hindi rin siya lumalalim. Pag stuck up ang hip, marami pa namang movements na required ang hip. Like running, for example, or biking. Pero yun nga, kung lagi kang stuck up sa seated position, majority of the day, magkakaproblema ka talaga. Pagka niyaya ka ng mga kaibigan mong tumakbo, ay yung tatakbuhan nyo pala sa Nuvali. Tapos, hindi pala level surface. Kailangan pala tumalon. Magkakaproblema ka talaga.
Oo. So
pwede kang magkaroon ng groin pain, groin pull, or knee pain. So again, that was my introduction for the Asian squat. So the Asian squat goes like this. Let me adjust my laptop so you can see. Pipili kayo guys ng position ng paa na kasing lapad ng balikat. Yung paa nyo, medyo ito-toe out nyo ng konti. Pero wag sobra. As in neutral lang ha. So from this position, you will just try your best to sit down. Hindi na kayo nag-a-adjust sa paa. Naka-sit down lang kayo. Alam nyo guys, pag nanood kayo ng mga Oriental shows,
Chinese movies.
Yung mga lagi sila naka-Asian squat, no? Again, kahit sa ano kasi nila, mga commode nila, parang ano pa rin sila doon, meron pa rin sila mga butas eh. So required ka talaga mag-Asian squat. That's why it's called an Asian squat. It does look funny, guys. But I tell you what, it's very, very important. Especially if you do this daily. People who are suffering from knee pain, mapapansin nyo, mawawala yung knee pain. Kasi, in that position kasi, guys, yung knees natin is nasa deep bend position. Ngayon, sabihin sa akin, Raul, ang hirap naman nun. Hindi ko nga mahawakan sarili ko eh. And then find a post or a stair post. Pwede naman kayo humawak. Kung hinihirapan talaga kayo, pwede naman kayo sa wall. Ganito muna kayo sa wall. To start with. Tapos, bukay. Nakita niyo guys yung how deep the knee bends din sa position na to?
Yes.
And also how good you can stretch the heel cord. Holding this position for 1 to 2 minutes daily is really, really very helpful.
Oh.
Again, going back to knee pain. Na-experience nyo ba na aakit ka lang ng hagdanan, masakit na?
Yes.
Di ba? Pero, titignan nyo guys ha, ang ano ba, gaano ba requirement ng hagdanan? Di ba? Ganito lang kataas yung step nun, for example. So nakita niyo kung how much lang yung bending na required. Ito lang. Yun pa lang may pain na. Kaya pala yung tao, pag tumakbo masakit. Kasi mas mataas yung requirement ng knee bending dun eh. At saka mas mataas yung requirement ng knee landing. What I'm trying to say is, kung ang range of motion ng joints natin is ganito kalaki, tapos ang requirement lang ng function or ng gagawin ng movement is hanggang dito lang, sigurado kang walang pain. Kasi available ka nga hanggang dito eh, di ba? Pero kung ang requirement ng movement mo or ng function na gagawin mo is hanggang dito, ang mobility na requirement, tapos ang available mo lang is hanggang dito, alam mo talaga magkaka-pain. Going back sa Asian squat, kaya very important Asian squat. Kasi nakita niyo kung gaano ka-deep yung bend ng knee, at saka ng hip, saka na ankle. So kung ganun range of motion ng joints na yun, edi going up and down the stairs as simple as that, magiging pain-free. So again guys, what I require is 1 to 2 minutes. If you cannot do it without assistance, then do it against the wall. So that was the fourth. Now the fifth is the most difficult of all. It's called the plank. Difficult siya kasi yung plank kasi na tinuturo ko is not the usual plank. Yung usual plank kasi, ang problema doon is, let me just reposition my laptop. The usual plank kasi guys, they will just ask you to just bear your weight on your elbow, tapos bahala na. Minsan ganito pa eh. Diba? Di ba guys, ang problema nga, yung pag nakatayo nga, naagano na yung iba eh. Ibig sa pag nakatayo ka, masakit na nga eh. Gagawin mo pa siya na naagano na nakaplank. Mas lalong dangerous na sa spine. Kasi pag naaganon ka sa plank, hindi ka nakasandal sa muscle. Nakasandal ka sa spine, sa buto. Hino-hold mo yung position, pero sa buto ka rin nakasandal. Wala kasing ginagamit ng muscle to hold the position. So what I require is, kailangan naka-posterior pelvic tilt position. Medyo scientific yung dating. Pero actually, ang gagawin mo lang doon is ipa-flatten mo lang yung back mo. Kasi para mangyari yun, kailangan mo lang patigasin yung puwet. So this is how it goes, guys. You're gonna hold the plank position. Make sure your feet are pointed straight down. Tapos patitigasin mo yung puwet mo. Yun. Hindi, guys. Pag pinatigas mo yung puwet mo, magpa-flatten yung likod.
Okay.
And then make sure that your navel is also sucked in all throughout the position.
So, Sir Raul, tight yung diaphragm mo, no?
I would say suck in yung navel.
So, contracted.
Suck in yung navel. And you hold that position for 30 seconds, 20 seconds. Pero ang goal is 2 minutes. 2 minutes continuous. So going back, guys. What did we do? The bands, which are 3 movements. The Asian squat, which is 1 to 2 minutes. And the plank, which you're hoping for you to be able to hold for 2 minutes straight. Kung hindi kaya ng 2 minutes, edi pwede mong gawin ng 30 seconds times 4 or 20 seconds times para ma-accomplish mo yung 2 minutes. 20 seconds times 8. I think guys, kayang gawin nyo ng 5 to 10 minutes daily. Pagising sa umaga. Or for people who for example, who plans to bike or plans to run, you do those movements as a warm-up. Again, going back, guys, consistency beats intensity. Now, for some people, eventually 1 to 2 months time, that will become easy. Then you have to progress. But then again, those 5 basic exercises and movements are a daily requirement, if you would ask me, to ensure that your pillars of strength are more or less strong. Thank you, Teacher Jhei. Hope you.
Grabe. Ang lupit nun. Ang lupit. Ang dami. Actually, tinamaan ako dun sa ibang sinabi niya you know, I want to try those things out. Siguro I'll try to procure the resistance bands as well for my exercise and for my wife then. And follow-up question, okay lang bang magpamassage? Magpamasahe, especially yung lumbar problem. Yung massage parlor, yung ganyan. Oo. Or yung may scoliosis, okay lang bang magpamasahe na? Yung hindi therapist yung titingin, yung yung massage na may license lang ng testing.
Oh, yes, teacher. Massage kasi is massage. And actually, we don't do massage. Yung massage kasi sa outside, like sa spa, is a relaxation massage. So there's nothing wrong with that. The problem I see, though, is that you cannot expect to be healed from it. You can expect to be relaxed from it. Pain may subside kasi na-aid nung massage kasi yung blood flow. Kasi when there's blood flow, then the toxins comes out. So pagka nag-out yung toxins, nawawala yung pain. But you would realize kasi, especially for people right now who are experiencing back pain, the pain on the back is not really where the problem is. That is just where the problem elicits. Doon lang nagmamanifest yung pain. Pero ang source of problem talaga nun, believe me or not, is from the glutes. So, yun nga ang problema. Oo. Yun nga ang problema, Teacher Jhei. So, upon, based on my experience, hindi talaga doon nagsisimula yung pain. Yun doon lang nag-manifest yung pain sa lower back. Kasi di ba sabi ko kanya, Teacher Jhei, kung saan mahina yung joint, doon magmamanifest yung pain. Kung saan ka weak. It just so happened na because of people sitting for long periods this past year, then automatic, sa lower back magmamanifest kasi we're always in a seated position. What happens kasi, Teacher Jhei, is that because you're in a seated position, then everything right here shortens. Everything right here more or less lengthens. This becomes weak. Pillar of strength, di ba?
Yes.
Now, everything shortens kasi there's this thing we call adaptive muscle shortening. The muscles tend to adapt to shorten kasi dun mo lang siya in-expose. Ngayon, ang problema, Teacher Jhei, when you stand up, okay lang pag nakaupo kasi yun ang main position mo. It's just in a shortened position. But the problem lies when you stand up. If this is short, then when you stand up, you'll stand up like this.
Oo nga.
Protruded. Kasi pinupull ka forward to, di ba? You got it, Teacher Jhei?
Yes.
Pa short to. So pinupull ka niya forward. Now, you won't stand up like this, di ba? Kasi you look silly.
Yes.
So what happens is, to be able to compensate for this shortened state, you will have to contract this more than usual. So you have to contract this, your lower back, to be able to stand up more upright. Kaya masakit. Kasi this is a compensation from this.
Ah,
So,
grabe.
what I'm just trying to say is, hindi mawawala yung back pain mo unless ma-lengthen mo yung shortened muscle.
Sa pool. Grabe. Now I
Kaya
understand.
may iba rin tao na sabi Teacher Jhei, I just simply picked a pen from the floor and then already suffered slip disc. Kasi that's what happened. They're in a shortened state. They want to pick something from the floor, which is a shortened state, and then they immediately and hurriedly gets up. Now imagine two opposite ends pulling each other apart, diba? This is pulling you up,
Yeah.
pero they pull you down. Imagine mo yun, nagkakatakan sila. So what is caught in the crossfire? Your spine. It's being pulled forward, it's being pulled backward. So slip disc.
Grabe. You know sir, yung explanation nyo sa pool talaga, the other people, I think that's everyone's concern na rin, no? Yung proper posture.
Pero let's I don't want to say proper posture kasi we are all designed kasi may mga God-given ano tayo eh. Meron tayo mga God-given na skeletal structures. Pag nakita niyo si Michael Phelps, when he stands up na kuba. Kuba siya. Pero he's a champion athlete, a gold medalist Olympian, di ba? Pero basing from his standing, sabihin mo, ay may problema yan. Kasi kuba siya eh. So if you look at Michael Phelps' posture, isipin mo may problema siya. Pero ang maganda kay Michael Phelps, may ability siya to correct pag kailangan niya to swim. So what I'm trying to say is this. Hindi posture yung problema typically. What happens is pag nagkaroon ng adaptive muscle shortening at wala ka ng ability to recover from it to perform a certain function kasi nag-shorten state na siya. Again, going back just to recap. Si Michael Phelps, kuba, pero hindi siya shortened kasi when he needs to swim, he has the ability to recover and open up. What happens to most people is that kuba at nag-shorten, wala nang ability. So whenever that person, for example, wakes up in the morning, ang masama pa, ang masama pa, natulog pa siya sa isang side. So pagising niya, shortened na, no? Tapos mayroon siyang inabot sa cabinet. Ipit.
Patay.
Sakit yun. Ang typical complaint agad nun, sabihin agad, impingement. Pero yun nga kung maagapan mo yon, alam mo nang gano'n ang posture mo, hindi ibig sabihin kailangan mo talagang gamitin yung mga scapular exercises para magkaroon ka ng ability to open up.
Ay, grabe. Alam niyo sir, namulatan ako, hindi dapat pala politically correct, hindi posture, no? Dapat muscle awareness.
Hindi ko lang, Teacher Jhei, meron kasi mga iba na sabi, wrong posture, pero actually we are all given certain postures eh. Again, going back, what happens is when that posture becomes permanent.
Yeah. I think I should make sure that my key term that I got right now is yung muscle contraction awareness, eh, no? Something that I for one, since I am obese, katulad ngayon yung seated position ko contracted, eh. So therefore I should be aware on how I would counter act on this kind of kasi especially us online teachers, nagsistay kami sa ganitong position for a long period of time. So I think the exercise that you gave a while ago would benefit us. Am I correct?
They certainly would, Teacher Jhei. And what I've discussed also in the talk that we did for the school was you have to get up and do a movement every 30 minutes if you really want to prevent your muscles to adaptively shorten. Again, going back, Teacher Jhei, when you're sitting and when you need to go to look at the screen, you really have to kuba. Wala ka naman choice, kailangan mo talagang kumuba. Hindi ka naman po pwedeng naka-straight body. Pero what I'm trying to say is, for you to be able to prevent those muscles to shorten, every 30 minutes, you have to stand up and do something. So for example, you set your timer 8 o'clock to 8:30, or after your class, 8:40, sige, every 40 minutes. You do a movement. Like you do a movement, the scapula. You do this for 20 repetitions, for example. And then on the next 30 minutes, you do something else. You do the Asian squat for 1 to 2 minutes, for example. But the key is you have to get up and stand up and do a movement every 30 minutes if you really want to battle our enemy, which is called adaptive muscle shortening.
Ang daming nagme-message kahit sa messenger ko na hindi nakakapag-chat. But I think ang isang tanong dito is would you recommend doing online standing?
I'm sorry, Teacher Jhei. I'm sorry.
Ito yung isang tanong kung pwede daw tumayo, standing, tatayo ka daw after, I guess ito yung interpretation ko online standing. So ibig sabihin after sitting for a long period of time, bigla kang tatayo or something.
Okay din naman yung Teacher Jhei. My only problem with that, kasi standing is not a movement. It is just a change of position. What we're trying to do is to increase one's heart rate and to increase one's lung capacity and to stretch what is being shortened through movement. Standing is good, but then again, guys, it is still considered an idle position if you're just gonna be standing, because it's just basically a change of position. Sabi ko nga sa talk ko with the school, if you remember it, Teacher Jhei, sitting properly is good, but sitting properly is still an idle position. Regardless, you're still not moving. It will not, being able to sit properly, being able to stand up properly for 8 to 9 hours a day, first and foremost, is impossible. Second, if you are able to, you're still caught up in an idle position nonetheless. It's still not considered. You guys to do a movement that would increase one's heart rate, and preferably with something with resistance, to also include muscle strengthening.
Yeah. Follow-up question. Okay lang ba na nagtuturong nakatayo?
Okay lang naman po. I would prefer you're also moving while you're standing up, like walking, changing positions every once in a while. Not basically stiffly standing up, kasi at least there's movement. Sitting is also good naman. Pero ang bottom line nga, guys, going back, those are good questions nonetheless. But the bottom line, regardless, is still this. Every 40 minutes, every after class, you have to do a movement that requires resistance and that requires effort, that addresses your pillar of strength, para maiwasan natin yung mag-ensue ang adaptive muscle shortening. Kasi pag nagkaroon ng adaptive muscle shortening, guys, automatic, magkakaroon kayo ng pain. Secondly, ang binabattle din natin, kaya in-encourage ko ang movement, is yung idleness. Kasi when you're idle for 8 to 9 hours a day, tapos i-multiply mo yun into a year, into years, automatic, guys, mamamatay tayo ng mas maaga. Kasi the human body is designed to move. And when you're not moving, kakalawangin ka, including your innards. Kaya prone, ang dami ngayon na i-stroke Ang dami ngayon namamatay sa sa cardiac failure. Kasi nga, because of idleness. So what movement every 30 to 40 minutes is doing is it also would help lengthen your life.
Ah, that's a lot, sir. Sir Raul, we actually learned a lot from you today, even if
Thank you.
just like
Thank you.
just like an hour. Actually, one ano na nga 10:20 na nga on my watch eh. But then again, I personally would like to thank you for giving us a lot of insights. This I guess this is one of my videos who will be watched by a lot of people, especially those who have concerns with their body. By the way, I will give this opportunity, sir, Sir Raul, to endorse yourself to our viewers. If they want to get in touch with you, how do they do that? And how would they, if they want to inquire of your services, sir?
Thank you, Teacher Jay. Thank you, everybody. Through Facebook, you can just contact me, Raul de los Reyes. I also have a Facebook page, Art Prehab Rehab. You can also get in touch with me through that. There are certain situations where exercises, guys, can simply address the pain. Of course, there are also some chronic conditions which require manual therapy. But what I'm trying to suggest, regardless kasi guys it still all depends on you. Kasi sa totoo lang guys, when I ask you to exercise, hindi naman ako yung may hirapan, kayo eh. So the heart, first and foremost, must be in place to really want to get better and improve one's pain. Now, if you are in that position where you really want to get better, then anybody or where I can definitely help you. I do have a lot of experience, and that is really what I'm bringing to the table. But nonetheless, regardless of my experience, I also bring with me, I guess, yung siguro, yung opportunity to also spread the word. Kasi I know by myself, we all have different gifts to present, to add value to people. And I'm quite fortunate that God, I guess, gave me the gift to heal and to touch and to also to explain. So besides my experience, that's what I think I'm also bringing to the table. I'm hoping that this somehow blesses you, whatever I've shared today. And I thank you once again for bearing with me. Sorry if it became quite lengthy, Teacher Jhei. But I guess I
No worry.
probably would need to. It probably would need to take more than this to be able to hopefully really teach you what you need to do. I'm also trying to also, I guess, empower you through this. Going back to what I said earlier, it all boils down to you. You can do something about your pain. So I'm empowering you. It doesn't depend on me or anybody else for that matter. It all boils down to you. Consistency really is one of the key factors for you to be able to achieve a pain-free and functional life. Regardless of your goals, if you want to be strong, if you want to be pain-free, if you want to lose weight, consistency really is the key. It's not really the intensity. Thank you, Teacher Jhei.
All right. On that note, I would like to thank our guest speaker today, Sir Raul, and I am inviting everyone to also subscribe to his son's channel, Hoobies and Creations. And yes, let's help his son reach 1,000 subscribers. Kasi ako 1,500 na. So, this is me paying it forward to also my guest speakers. Sir, once again, thank you very much for giving us your Saturday morning and this opportunity to share your insights about your profession. And once again, this is Teacher Jhei, and I will catch you in the next episode within 2 to 3 weeks. And we are still targeting on having at least 5,000 subscribers before the month of June. So once again, this is Teacher Jhei, and cheers. Goodbye.